Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the very first mentoring circle of 2022. That number still seems, still getting used to that number, but so glad to have you all here for this conversation on conscious growth. We thought this would be a great conversation to kickstart the year with because for most of us, when we begin the year, there's a lot of hope and optimism that we can actually really do something meaningful with this year, COVID or no COVID, or rather, I should say, even when there is COVID, especially when when the circumstances are not ideal, how do we still continue to focus on our growth and really make something of the year that leaves us feeling proud when we reach the end of the year. So on that note, we thought about whom we can invite to have this discussion, and Shalini, who's here with us, Shalini Prakash, her name was among the first that came to mind because she has recently also come up with a book which really touches upon many themes around really discovering what is important to you and then pursuing it in a way and really designing your life and your career in a way that gives you that sense of meaning and purpose. So I will hand it over to Charu in just a minute to introduce Shalini formally. But before that, just to set the context, so Shalini and I actually met, we were just speaking, we met almost 7 or 8 years ago. And at that time, it was interesting because we were both at an inflection point in our lives because we were trying to figure out what we're going to do next. And that time, while on one hand can be incredibly exciting because you have a world of possibilities before you and you can do whatever you may choose to do. On the other hand, it can also be a little disconcerting as you're trying to figure out, what should I spend my life doing? What should I do with my talents, my passions? How do I express myself in the world in a way that gives me that sense of joy and meaning? And of course, since then, we've both come a long way. Shalini, in particular, has done just phenomenally well since then and has found her path and has found different and beautiful ways of expressing herself. And many of the learnings from that journey is what she is really codified in her book, Clueless at 30. So what we thought we'll spend the rest of the time today doing is really getting Shalini to share with all of us, how does one do that? How does one find, how can one think about one's growth in a very conscious way, irrespective of what stage you might be, irrespective of what age you might be, whatever phase of life you're in, how do we do this in a very conscious way? So really happy to have Shalini with us. And to introduce her formally, I'm now going to hand it over to Charu.
Thanks, Bhavna. So thank you once again, Shalini, for starting our mentoring circles for 2022 on such an exciting note, because I really do feel that anybody who's able to write a book and kind of put it all together definitely has gone through some journey and then actually be able to share it with others, so thank you so much. And a little bit more about Shalini. She calls herself a curious cat. And her interest in, she says, social identity and human well-being is what probably led her to actually writing the book Clueless at 30. Shalini is also an investor in some startups. She has mentored many founders. She's been among the LinkedIn Voices in 2017. She's also been on the under 40 list for the India Alternate Investment Professionals 2018. So as you can see, there have been many achievements, but I'm sure there have been also a lot of glitches along the way. But let's learn from Shalini that how do you actually navigate and, create your own story. Thank you. And before we start, I'd just like to introduce my colleague Pooja, who would just like to share a little bit about our program, Conscious Woman program, and then we'll get back to Shalini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charu. And I'm so excited for this session and look forward to hearing more from Shalini. Um, and Shenomics is a community which is on a mission to create a world where women can live and lead with purpose and mindfulness. So, as you all know, some of you are regulars here. We are in a constant endeavor to deliver value to our community, help women find their voice, explore their talents, achieve their ambitions. So if you are an aspiring mid-career woman, or you know of an aspiring mid-career woman who nurtures a dream of stepping into her highest potential, this is an invitation to join the signature program at Shenomics, which is the Conscious Woman program. We are launching the next batch on February 12th, and applications are open. I'm just going to put the link in the chat. And if you've already been through the program, or you know of your friend, a sister, your wife, sister-in-law, anybody, your colleague, do spread the word and refer as many aspirational women looking to make a meaningful change. And let's make the world a better place with more conscious women leading with purpose. Again, I'm going to put the link for the application in the chat for your reference. Thank you, and welcome, Shalini, and I hand it over to you to kick off the session today.
Thank you, Pooja. So I introduce myself. Is that the format, or okay? Okay, so quick background to me, and also what really led me to write the book and share my story. So essentially, I am a Bangalore girl. I come from one of these South Indian families where I always knew I was meant to do engineering or medicine, and which I did. I did my engineering here in Bangalore, and shortly after I graduated, I joined a large corporate firm called Fidelity Investments, and then in 2 months, I started getting really bored, and I couldn't see myself fit into the corporate mold. I changed several jobs, and every job or every decision that I took in terms of changing job didn't really work out. Then I thought maybe I should do my master's, which I did twice. I thought I'll find the answers to all my life problems or the existential problems that I had, and I didn't. And I worked for a thought leadership platform, which mostly consisted of people from around the world, artists, designers. And I thought, hey, if I'm here, I'm sure to find my idea and my calling. And I spent 3.5 years, and I didn't. And then I moved into the startup ecosystem. I thought, okay, now if I'm surrounded with entrepreneurs, this is my sure shot of having the, finding my aha moment or knowing what is it that I'm born to do, etc. And that didn't happen either. And then I moved on to venture capital, and, and the story goes on. So, my chase to understand, or my pursuit to understand what is it that interests me, or what is my passion, or what is my purpose in life, led me to explore several things in life, from profession to experiences, experiments, lots of failures, few successes here and there. But yeah, so essentially I've been a mixed bag with a lot of eclectic and diverse experiences. And so there is no one way to define myself or define my line of work. If somebody asks me, what do you do? I get very nervous because I don't know where to start from. So, so that's a little bit about me. So, my curiosity of finding what is it that really excites me, and my passion or my line of work, right from being 18 years old to being in college, me and my friends and all of us making these life decisions, and how that sort of shaped up in the last 15 years is what the book is all about. So the book is called Clueless at 30. Clueless at 30. And it talks about my journey with my friends, and how we all made certain life decisions, and how that's shaped up for us. And what's interesting is that most of us, right, and not just me, most of us, we have this blueprint for life that we are told at the age of 18. and which is what I followed and my friends followed. And, there came a time, a turning point for us. It was around the age of 30, but it was about, we did everything right. And how is it that we are still here? Why do we feel stuck? We thought we did all the right things. We took the right step. And why is it that, I'm looking for more? And I still don't know what that is. So what I did at the age of 30 was I went through a lot of these self-help programs, from Tony Robbins, to watching a lot of videos and, having a lot of conversations. And then everybody would come and tell me saying, hey, you're so sorted, you have all the resources, you're smart, you're talented. All you need to do is you need to know what is it that you want to do in life, and then you'll figure it out. And so, everybody kept telling me that, but then in my mind, I was like, but I don't know what is it that I'm good at, or I don't know what excites me. I didn't know what my starting point was. So all these resources that was really out there actually was telling you that, oh, there is this resource, there is this passion, at the center of it is your purpose of life and all of that. But then for someone like me who didn't know what my passion was, there was no starting point. And that's really what really inspired me to write the book, saying, there's this other half of the world, they don't know what their starting point is. And this is to all those people who are trying to find their way in the world. And it is really messy in the head when you don't know what's your life's purpose, or what is it that you're meant to do, what is it that you're born to do. So it is for all those people who are wanting more but don't know what their starting point is. And so I hope this book is the starting point for most people. So yeah, so sorry, is this going to be a Q&A, Charu, or do I just continue talking?
No, Shalini, just as much as you would like to share, and then we open it up for Q&A.
Okay. So so there are there are two things that I'd like to talk about. One is about the phases of any person who's trying to lead a conscious living or a mindful living, especially when they are clueless and they're trying to figure out, and what those phases look like. And these are really coined by by me. They are just very millennial. Yeah, bear with me if you're not one. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, when you're really stuck, what can you really do about it? And yeah, so let me talk about the phases of a clueless person that I think each person goes through. So the first phase that I've actually also spoken a lot about in the book is, we all start with FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. You see your friends who are getting promotions, or they're becoming entrepreneurs, or they're startups. And then you're probably thinking, oh, I was a first bencher, I was really killing it in my class, and what's happened to me, I'm really stuck, and then everybody's going ahead of me. Or it could be social pressure from your families, right, saying, okay, this person bought their house, or they bought their first car, and what the heck are you doing with your life? And so there is a lot of pressure also that comes from say social media, right? And there's this glorious representation of what life would look like if you become a startup entrepreneur, or you go win these awards and so on, right? So there's a lot of FOMO, or that anxiety of being really stuck. So this is how I think most of us are at some point in our lives. And from what I'm really talking about is saying, when you're at this stage, you move to the next step. We are clueless, we are stuck, and there's nothing we can do other than moving forward and taking a chance on yourself. So where we move on to the next stage, which is called the SOBO. SOBO is when you're in search of better options or better opportunities. And then once you set out in SOBO, where you are exploring new things, obviously you meet new people, there are new learnings, there are many types of firsts. I remember this time, when I used to work for this company called Inc, where I was asked to go talk on stage, and I'd never spoken on stage in my entire life. And it was one of the most harrowing experiences. I remember reading and practicing in front of the mirror, etc., right? And it was so hard. And there are so many things, even in entrepreneurship or in startups. When I was in venture capital, I had, when I was told to lead India investments and portfolio, they said, oh, you need to start issuing these term sheets, for example, right? And I had no idea how to do it. So basically what I'm trying to say is that, when we all want better opportunities or better things for ourselves, we set ourselves to go there. But once you go there, you realize that it is more complicated than you thought. But then, know what, there is no other way to move forward in life other than experiencing all those fears or new challenges that come along the way. And we cannot really shy away, because once we leave that comfort zone, we have left ourselves for that growth, that journey of adventure. And you have to sort of embrace everything that that journey has to offer, right from ups and downs and so on. So in the book, also in phase 2, which is the SOBO stage, I've spoken really about what can you do, how do you sort of really navigate through that process, when you set yourself off in the SOBO stage. Um, and then I move on to talking about the most important part, which is probably very relevant to the Shenomics community, is I talk about JOLO, which is the joy of letting go, where, you really sort of shed all the inhibitions, because you realize that once you are, in this place where you have found new opportunities for yourselves, you realize that how much of baggage that you're actually carrying on your shoulders. And then you realize that half the baggage that you're carrying are probably something that you chose to carry and no one told you to carry, right? I mean, right from having self-doubt to having imposter syndrome to so many things. And being a woman, probably we carry more, once you become young mothers or juggling between work and career and, trying to balance everything. And so I talk about the joy of letting go. And the final stage is, which I talk about in the book, is called MOFO, which is move forward. In a state of, being clueless, or when you're trying to explore new things, there's nothing else that you can do than moving forward. And it is very, very important that we never think of ourselves as a finished product, when you're stuck, especially, right? We have to reimagine how we view ourselves. We need to view ourselves as a work in progress, as a product, and not as a finished product. And it's important that we inculcate a growth mindset, and we're very conscious about the stories that we tell ourselves every day, because ultimately what you tell yourself, or the belief systems that you have about yourselves, are really going to shape your future, your next 5 years or 10 years. It could be at work, or even it could be at home. So one of the things that's very close to my heart, and which I've spoken a lot in the 4th stage, which is the MOFO stage, which I want to spend some time talking about it, is when I mentioned that at the age of 30, when I was really clueless, etc. So I was like, I am in venture capital. I'm in a place where I'm not stifled doing a 9 to 5 job like any corporate person would do. And I was thinking, if I'm feeling so clueless and lost, I wonder what would somebody in a 9 to 5 job be doing. At least I was in a place where I was out there, I was meeting people, I was meeting entrepreneurs, I was at the center of ideas. And it wasn't an exhausting place. And I wonder what would happen for people outside. So out of curiosity, I went and started a community called Find Your Slash, which I just started posting it on LinkedIn and like few social media platforms, saying, hey, if you're clueless, join me this weekend, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll figure out how we can get past this. And what was really interesting is the kind of people that came, it was not just from corporate. I had people from doctors to interior designers to artists, and people coming from all kinds of backgrounds. And then you realize that, it's not just you who's stuck, or somebody from a corporate world that is stuck. So people from all kinds of backgrounds that are really, really stuck. So we did a lot of these programs, and then I also did this, I gave a platform for these people where people could come and talk about their ideas or dreams. And then one thing that I really realized is that there is so much of emphasis that we actually give for our day avatar, or an avatar that we show up at work every day. And we don't really spend time on honing our night avatar or a weekend avatar, which is probably the true extension of who we really are. And I started emphasizing a lot about creative expression through the work that you do, or whatever that ignites your curiosity about how you really go and explore a lot of these things. So I think the beauty about Find Your Slash, or what that really means, is when you don't know what your passion is, or when you don't know what is it that you want to do, or when you don't know what's that one thing that you want to do, why can't you go be 10 things, right? So for example, if you want to be a successful wildlife photographer today, you need to have an understanding of environment, to ecology, to photography, to art, to tech, to so many things for you to be really, really good at that one thing. So when you don't know what is that one thing, be 10 things, and all these small things will actually come together and give you that unique perspective about your work, and that will make it unique, and you will be unique and your work will be unique too. So this is something that I've spoken a lot about in the book as well, where saying, because we lay so much emphasis on one thing that we don't end up doing anything, and we're just waiting for that sign to show up from heaven, or somebody knocking at your door and telling you what it is that you need to do. So when you're in the clueless state, and then when you want to move forward, just do all the little things that will keep you moving forward, and where you're experimenting new things, and all of us should not be really worried about making a mistake or being an utter failure, because I'm sure Bhavna would also agree, because she's done a lot of work in the past where a lot of our learnings has really come from failures. And I think that's what actually shaped us as people. And it's really not the successes that has shaped us as people. It is the, mistakes and the experiments that we have done, and that's what's really shaped our perspectives. And and I think not self-doubting what your project is going to do for you, and not asking questions if this is really going to help you in the future. For example, when I started writing the book, I was just finishing my gig as an investor, and I'm just trying to move into starting my own company. And I'm not a writer. I don't come from literature world. And but I started writing because this is something that I really wanted to do, and it was my way of expressing. And then I never thought I would become an author. And today it is one of the best-selling books on Amazon right now. And so I think it's all about reinventing yourself, giving yourself new dimension through. You can start off as weekend projects or your night avatars or whatever it is, right? But I think it's giving new dimensions to your personality. Because one thing, when I look back when I was 18, I wish I did was I had built my identity capital, where what I mean by identity capital is, each identity that you take, it could be as an explorer or as a volunteer, or as a writer, or in today's world, Insta influencers. And there's so many avatars that you can actually take. Each identity that you really build for yourself is an investment that you're actually making on yourself when you're younger. And I think it's never too late. It doesn't matter in your teens or 20s or 30s, but the idea is, how do you sort of really create new dimensions for yourself without really asking, what's the point of doing this? Is it going to give me a promotion, or is it going to take me along further in my career? But it's actually something that you're doing for your own personal development. And I think for me, that's what conscious living is all about, doing something that really excites you, and whatever keeps you moving forward, while we're all still trying to answer the big question. So despite having done a lot of these things, I'm still clueless about a lot of things, but I don't associate that with a sense of worry, but I associate that with a sense of hope. The hope that, the universe will align the stars together and something great will come out of it. But then I think until then, it's all about scratching the surface and really seeing, what more is there to do, or what more is there to learn, and going along the way. So if you have any questions for me, you can tell me, ask me. I want this to be a little more interactive. So let me.
Yes, let's open it up for questions. So feel free to ask Shalini about any of the things she's shared, anything, any aspects of her journey, or any learnings from her journey as well. So while we're waiting for this question, Shalini, I love the way that you've sort of created this framework of FOMO, SOBO, JOLO. I have to say, I wasn't familiar with some of these terms before. I really do like that expression, joy of letting go. I think it speaks really well to the philosophy we follow here at Shenomics as well. Tell us a little bit more about that. So for you, at that stage, what were, speaking from your own personal experience, what were some of the things that you let go of that allowed you to move forward?
So there was there's actually a very interesting story about this particular chapter, where, when I went to Israel and the learnings that came out of it. So hopefully people here will get to read, but I'll talk about it. Was the search for this happiness. We say, okay, if there's this, initially it used to be 20 years ago, it used to be roti, kapda or makan. Now it's roti, kapda, makan and happiness, right? It's like, that's what we need. You should go ask even millennials or young people. They say, what do you need in life? They'll say, oh, I want to be happy. And, and they're all looking for happiness. And then there are all these videos telling you about how to find happiness. And what I realized was, happiness is not the end destination. It is a state of mind, right? And I think a lot of us seem to miss the most obvious thing. So that is something that I've spoken a lot about, this chapter on focused illusion, where I talk about how much focus we put on an illusion about, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be happy. But then we fall into this happiness trap. We are in this circle saying, we keep leading this milestone-based life, saying, okay, if I get into, say this dream job of mine, I'm going to be happy. And then once you get into the dream job and then you set something else, oh, I'm going to be happy when I do this. And then, I think at the end of the day, you realize that you'll never be happy because it's the illusion that you have about how happy you will be when you actually achieve that milestone. And it is essentially, it's something that, that I've learned along the way as well, saying, it is not an end destination, because you always keep raising it. As human beings, probably we always want more for ourselves. And we will keep saying, okay, we'll be happy. And then you realize when you look back, you've never been happy all along. And it's just been inside of you, in your mind all along as a state of mind. So yeah, I think that's one thing that I've spoken a lot about in the Jolo phase. And one of my friends, Upasana, she runs this Braille books community out of Bombay. And then, she and I were talking about how people on the outside think, we are so sorted, and then we're so cool, and oh man, you're so amazing. And then a lot of young people writing to her or to me, or maybe a lot of people here in this call as well, saying, you're so sorted. But then nobody out there knows that we have our own demons in our heads, right? We have our own vulnerabilities, we have our own insecurities, and we have spoken a lot about that too, which also brings a lot of self-doubt, right? I mean, you also think, oh, do I really deserve this? Or what if somebody calls out on my bullshit someday, and a lot of us feel that on our daily basis. Even now, when I wrote the book, I thought, oh, what if people make fun of me? What if, and then when I was writing, I really didn't think about, letting my guard down and sharing all of this really means. But then after I wrote the book, and people are telling me, oh, it's so nice that you let your guard down and wrote this book. And then sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake by doing that, but the point of the book itself was that, there are a lot of these top entrepreneurs who also given an interview in the book, where what I was trying to show was saying, it doesn't matter how many awards you won or how successful you are. Each person is carrying their own baggage, where that it's very, very important. So what you see is not what you get all the time. There are a lot of things that are going on in our minds. And the point is, it's okay that you carry that baggage, but it's important that you recognize that you're carrying that baggage and gently sort of let it go. And and I think the other thing is, the stories that we tell ourselves really matter at the end of the day. I think all you can do at the end of the day is, pull your socks up and you go with your head high, and then you go kill it, and that's all you can do. And everybody is probably in the same boat as you are, which probably doesn't look like on the outside, but everybody has shit going on in their lives. And don't put so much emphasis on failing. Say, oh my God, what if my friend tells me this? Oh my God, what if my family gets to know that I failed? And also, especially when you can't really control the controllable around you, right? I mean, when you can't really control the uncontrollable, but you can't control these factors, just let it go, and don't treat failure as the opposite of success, but instead treat failure as a part of your successful journey, because you have to go through a lot of failures to go through to get success in the end. And so these are the few key topics that I've spoken about in the joy of letting go.
Amazing. All right, we definitely have several questions. So
yeah, we'll start with Yedu.
Charu, go ahead. Yeah.
With Yedu. Yedu had put his hand up.
Hi, Shalini. How are you?
Good, thank you.
This is a wonderful introduction. Really appreciate it. And you talking about fear of missing out and imposter syndrome reminds me about a quote. The quote is, "You are busy doubting yourself while others are intimidated by your potential." So I just want to throw it out there. In fact, I have several questions, and your background also. Just looking it up on LinkedIn. But I'll just summarize it to one question, and if you have time, we'll add more. But Shalini, what do you think? Was there a breakthrough moment in your time, or like an aha moment where you felt like, okay, this is the turning point that led you to what you are today, right? If you could look backwards, and can you help explain that to us in this point? So.
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't say a breakthrough moment, but what I would say is for me, that moment was when I tried to find put this community, this Find Your Slash community together, because I'd never done something like that in my life. And I would always say, oh, okay, I'm like a nobody. Why would somebody come and attend this session? I'm no guru about this. Or I would think, oh, what do I know? Like even this book, right? Like I would have probably, like, say 6-7 years ago, I've thought, oh, I'm a nobody. Why would somebody want to read about me? I'm not Ratan Tata that people want to read about, and so on, right? I mean, that's what I would always tell myself. But once you actually get past that initial phase that is holding you back, you'll realize it is so easy. And for me, that process in my head somehow is templatized. When I want to try something new, or when I want to experiment something new, I know these are the 4 or 5 things I need to do. And also these are the 4 or 5 things I need to tell myself, that in terms of how I'm going to operate and do. And one thing the 2 things actually, the 2 things that has really, really worked for me is, as they say that good things happen to people to those who wait. But for me, it is good things happen to people who ask, who ask for help, who are, it could be a friend, or it could be even a stranger, people. In fact, when I started writing the book, I had a friend who actually was my book buddy, who helped me write the book, right? I mean, sometimes it's about just asking, and or even if it is starting something new as a founder, or whatever it is that you want to do, or even at work, right? I mean, if you're trying to be in want to experiment new ideas. So what's really helped me is that all you have to do sometimes is ask. We are all so scared to raise our hand, right? Like if you think about the time that you were in school, if you want to ask a question because you don't want to look silly, or you think people will judge you for not knowing something, we don't raise our hand. And it's all about asking the questions, and it's all about raising the hand. And the second thing that I want to mention, this for me, it's worked, is this fake it till you make it, right? I mean, in a good way, so I shared a little bit about my first time going up on stage, and rehearsing and all of that, but when I actually went up on stage the first time, I actually spoke like a pro, right? Because you need to tell yourself that you need to sort of go up there, put your head high, strong posture, and you actually talk so confidently, right? I mean, you're probably faking that confidence that you have, but I think in a lot of aspects I do that, because I think I probably don't feel that on the inside, but I make it seem so strongly on the outside. But then when you start doing that again and again, it becomes like a muscle memory, it naturally comes to you, and you're probably not faking it anymore. But these are like small hacks that will sort of help you put yourself out there, and not fear or any anxiety holding you back.
Thank you very much.
Vaishali, you can go next with your question.
Sure. Hi, Shalini. I must first admit that whatever you said is such a great validation for so many of my beliefs. And I don't think I could find that anywhere on Google or any book that I read, or, speaking to anybody in their experience. So it is such an honest and candid expression of what you've gone through and what many others like us are going through. So I have 2 questions. One is, earlier when we were younger, even when we did small things, it used to give us so much joy and happiness, at least to me. Now, even when I do bigger things, which I always wanted, maybe it is a struggle that takes me there, but you still don't feel that much joy as you would have felt when you were a kid. I mean, or when you were in your teens, or when you were in your first job. And the second question is, in this pandemic world, everything is like a moving target. So when does one get a feeling of having arrived? Because everything is moving, everything is changing. You also change to adapt to that. So I would be happy if you could throw some light on these two.
Yeah. So first thing is, I don't think there's a moment where you can actually say that, oh, I have arrived. I think you're always a work in progress, because there's always ways to get better. I would say that is the first thing. And the second thing is that, when we are kids, right? We are so carefree. We don't really know what is happening. It's probably the most beautiful time for us to, screw up or try new things, etc. Right? I think there is something called a child's ego mode, and there's something called the adult ego mode. And for some reason, in our late 20s, we very naturally move into the adult ego mode, where we become very analytical about everything that we do, in terms of, oh, where's my time going, what is the output that we get from that, and so on. I think what would probably help, Vaishali, is if you can bring that change in your mindset, where we say, whatever you're doing is actually doing it for yourself. Maybe some of the milestones that you're setting for yourself are very tactical in nature, especially when you're at work and so on, right? And I think maybe you will start feeling more fulfilled when these are milestones that you've actually set for yourself, or you've actually set these milestones for the betterment of someone else around you. Like I can imagine, like see, when somebody writes like a nice note to me saying, oh, this book really changed their life or give them a unique perspective, right? I think these are small soft things in terms of how you've added value to someone else's life, will actually make you more fulfilled. I mean, at least that's the case for me, knowing that your work or what you're doing is really helping. But yeah, I think, in your everyday life, if you're at work, if you're working at a corporate job, maybe it is very hard to experience that, because you may not necessarily be doing that for your own personal fulfillment. But there are other ways to do it outside of work. So I would say there are many other ways for you to go find that joy in what you're doing.
Thanks so much, Shalini. I'll definitely try and keep you posted.
Yes, would love to.
Arushi?
Hi, Shalini. Firstly, thank you so much for all those insights. Just now, what you said about the shift in mindset, going from a child-centric ego to the adult ego. I really resonate with that. And I think that's something I've been struggling with quite a bit. And I wanted to, because when I was younger, in my 20s, I was very open and okay with exploring and experimenting. And I think I just turned 30. Coming to this stage where I think I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to try to be more focused, and especially having moved sectors, moved industries. So my question, and I put in the chat as well, is how can I deal, well, it's a two-parter. One is, what would your inputs be to be able to navigate? What could I be doing to navigate moving from one industry to the other? And more personally, how can I really manage those sort of internalized pressures that I have? They're not even external, they're my own pressures as to, being trained or educated in something else and venturing into a different direction. Because I think for a significant part of time recently, I've felt that I'm the one who's been working so hard, and I've gotten the degree and I've done all the things I'm supposed to be doing, but everybody else who may not have done so are way ahead in their journey. And I find myself constantly comparing. So any light that you could shed on that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure, Arushi. I think I really, I'm not sure at what point you joined the call, but then I did bring it up initially saying, I took up engineering and so did a lot of my friends thinking, we're sorted. And I thought that was the moment where I really arrived, right? I thought, okay, this is it. I've cracked the blueprint for life. I got into a top college and then life is sorted. And then unfortunately that didn't happen, which I realized at the age of 25, 26. But what I decided to do was I decided to, pull the plug and saying, you're still early. So maybe, still young. So you probably have you have the opportunity to do so, saying, okay, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to go find a job or be a part of a community which I know nothing about. Or for me, it was the search to figure out what interests me. So I went and joined a thought leadership program where I said, okay, I'm going to probably be sitting at the center of all ideas, people, from artists to designers to sportsmen to everybody, people from all backgrounds. But then it didn't happen. And then I moved on to startups and venture capital. And so I've been on this journey for 10 years, Arushi, and I still haven't found my calling. Still haven't figured out what is it that excites me or what is it that I want to do. And I just realized that, maybe some people know in their 20s, some people know in their 30s, or some people know in their 40s. But I think we need to keep trying. We need to keep trying. There's nothing else that we can do. But I think what's important is that we don't associate each of these phases with so much worry. And, sometimes it's just all about, take light. Don't take all of this too seriously, right? Because, you have to go through this process. So you might as well have some fun along the way and, not really get bogged down with, having so much expectation. I think all of us, right? I think men and women, we all have such high aspirations. And then we are also unfortunately living at a time where, you actually can become an overnight sensation. It is easy to become successful. So you know that you can do it, but then you don't know what you need to be doing, or, what's your starting point, or what is your body of work or line of work, because you now know it is so easy, unlike maybe what it was, say, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's going to get easier and easier. Like, one of the things, to be honest, that I'm trying to figure out is, everybody's saying, okay, Shal, you've written this book, you got to market it, you got to become Insta famous. And I was actually, to be honest, I was not even on Instagram until 2 months ago. Okay. And everybody's saying you got to be Insta famous. Oh, there's this huge creator economy thing going on. Why don't you dabble? Because I'm also trying to figure out what's my next move. I've written a book, which is definitely labor of love, but I don't think this is my profession. And I'm in transition to trying to figure out what is it that I need to do. And I probably need to be reinventing myself. Right. And there is nothing you can do. You have to put yourself out there. Maybe I'm going to explore this creative economy now. I'm trying to figure out what are the tools out there. And, you got to keep doing it. And one thing that has really worked for me, Arushi, is I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but that at any given time, there are always 3 things that I'm doing. I'm never married to one thing, maybe I have something going on, as a day job or something, but then I'll have 3 other things going on in the side, which is not even related to each other. I'm trying to figure out something, say, in social impact phase. Okay, I write a lot on LinkedIn. Okay, I do that. And then I also submit articles to, say, Fortune, and then I'm doing something. So basically I'm all over the place, but then, that's what gives me sanity, because I have so much FOMO that, if I'm just doing one thing, I'm going to miss out on these 5 other things. So I have said, okay, I'm going to do all the 5 things, anything that excites me. And I should be having fun, of course, if it excites me. And if I think that I have some personal and professional growth, just do it, because you don't know what's going to come out of it. And that is what's really kept me going. So, you're 30, you have aspirations, you're adventurous, just go out there, anything that excites you. Maybe you can start with Shenomics community and, do something with them.
I was just going to say, this is my first time here. So, this sounds like an adventure.
You should. Or you can come and figure out the creator economy with me. And we can figure out how to be Insta famous together. So, but yeah, I think there is, so that's a little bit also about what I've written in my book, saying, what can we do? We are in the state, and I have no tips. I have no cheat sheets, except for saying, hey, we got to go out there, get our hands messy. Maybe, we will make a, fool of ourselves, but it is okay, because there is no other way to do it.
Okay. Thanks, Shalini. Nija and Khushbu, we'll just come back to you. There's a question from Leena. Lina asks, how can people take the challenge of exploring something they really want to do in life? Say if one wants to leave corporates and start something of their own, however, the financial liabilities may become an obstacle. How can this be tackled?
So I think I'm a big fan of anything that you can try on the side, right? I would say one is you figure out the ropes of your business or whatever it is that you need to do, as a night project or weekend project. I would say that that's true for, right from Flipkart to everything. Nobody just quit their jobs one day and started doing this, right? I think there is probably at least 3 to 6 months of base work that is actually put into figuring out, right from saying, oh, small things like you can do customer surveys, right? I mean, it could be even with your friends and family or different WhatsApp groups that you're a part of, right? I mean, is this a product that people need? What is the pain point that you're trying to solve? And what is the ideal product going to look like, etc. Right? So these are like small, simple base work that you can actually create for whatever it is that you're doing. And these things take time. It's not like, oh, I quit today and then it's going to go up. So these are things that you can do alongside your job. And then once you have got the validation that this is going to work or this is going to make money, and then you can make that decision of this is if this is worth your time, if this is something that really excites you for the next 3 to 6 years. And like most for success for any entrepreneur or a founder is 10 years. There's nothing called overnight success. The overnight success for a founder is 10 years. So you probably need to be dedicated 7 to 10 years of your life doing it. So you can take an informed decision at the end of 5-6 months if you have built strong conviction around what you're trying to build.
Great. Thank you. Nija?
I could go next. I have a perpetual cold from the start of 2022. It's not going away. So I might sound a little funny, but Shalini, thank you so much. I love your energy. I love how honest and how clear you've been that I haven't figured it out myself and I'm still figuring it out. And I love that because I am also in that same phase where I constantly believe I'm a work in progress. And, there's so many things for me to try and so many things for me to, and I have a major FOMO. So I am an information hoarder. I am like, a workshop hoarder. Like if there is a workshop, I'm in it. If there's anything that I can do on the side, I'm doing that. And sometimes I feel that, that you spoke about JOLO, joy of letting go. I just don't get that joy. Like, if I'm letting something go, I always feel that I'm going to probably regret it later. Like, I get that feeling inside of me. And that's my one question. The second question is, I feel there's this inner ringmaster inside of me that's constantly telling me to kind of have targets and saying, oh, this is a goal that I want to accomplish. And then I check it and I'm like, what's next? And then what's next and what's next? This whole what next philosophy is great for my career growth. Like I find it very helpful for me to be doing things that are newer and nicer and, maybe novel in the space that they are in, but that's also very emotionally and mentally draining at times because I'm kind of doing a daytime full job and then I'm also trying to do all these things on the side. I don't know how to manage that, that whole time management and how to kind of make sure that I get the true joy of letting go and also manage that whole draining situation that I have going on with doing so many things on the side, which I probably cannot manage. Like how to choose wisely.
Yeah. So to answer your first question on JOLO, what I mean when I say JOLO is joy of letting go of any story or belief that is detrimental to you. That's what I mean when I say you have to let go. You have to let go of, any belief system saying, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be a failure. Or if you have any self-doubts about how well you can do, let go of all those self-doubts. So that's what I mean. So it's just clarifying.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, when I'm talking about letting go, I'm not talking about letting go of our aspirations, or I'm not talking about letting go of our dreams to do whatever, right? Because I am just like you, I am also hungry. I have that fire in my belly, right? I mean, we are all probably, in a prime of a career or age where, we want to do a lot of things. And I would say, yeah, just keep doing it, but don't let anything hold you back. Just go do it. And there are people probably not drawing around you, or maybe people around you are drawing boundaries. That's bad enough. So you don't want to be drawing a boundary for yourself too. So that's what I mean. So let go of all of that. the second thing is, when you're talking about, we lightly spoke about milestone based life, right? So I was also no different. I would say, okay, if I get this promotion, I know I'm going to be happy when I get that. And then I would work really hard and I would get to that point. And then I would say, okay, now I got this promotion. And I would not even take a second to even celebrate that promotion or celebrate that win. I would move on to the next thing. Okay, next I'm going to do this, next I'm going to do that, and so on, right? And what happened is, when I was setting that milestone, I was associating that with my happiness. Now that's the mistake I did. Having milestones is great because it's very important when you're in your job, when you have to keep moving up the corporate ladder, or whatever aspiration that you have for your career. But you should never associate that with your personal happiness. That is my only point, because the moment you set that with you saying, well, I'll be happy when I do that, you're never going to be happy, because you've again set your next milestone. So and I also spoke a little bit in the initial day, I don't know when you joined the call, I was saying how happiness is not the end destination. So we cannot set milestones on that. It's a state of mind. So do try and see if you can separate these milestones. And for your happiness, even research says, when you're actually giving something, as a kind of as an act of kindness, if you're giving something to someone, or if you're paying it forward in some way or the other to someone, that actually gives more experience, especially for women, I think, because we're very nurturing by nature and so on, right? So yeah, sometimes you can separate the two, separate your milestones and separate the happiness. Don't try to associate, seek happiness from your milestones. I remember having this chat with my husband one time, and he was also, we're both always constantly figuring out what to do with our lives. But, we were talking about, he comes from a traditional business, which is mostly into construction and real estate. And it's probably not the most, most exciting career, especially with a family business. And then, we would constantly talk about, how can that become more exciting for him? And, we would also have like these milestones. Okay, if I do this, X crores work, or, 10 crore work or 100 crore work, and then, you can keep doing the business. And then these, over a period of time, it really took him and, us as a family to figure out that, what, business is business, that probably makes money. And then we'll always keep time for something that gives us happiness, or that gives excitement, or something that you're really passionate about. I think the problem is when you're trying to mix both together. If you find both together, great. But if you cannot, then separate the two. One probably pays the bills and the other one probably feeds your heart, right? I mean, so just try to separate the two. And I think it's those small things, small tweaks in how you're approaching your work or everyday life will keep you going.
That really helps. And then I think another thing that I had on my mind was that like I said, I have so many things. I'm constantly looking out for new challenges, and, night hustles, side hustles, weekend hustles, whatever I can do, like whatever time I have. Sometimes I feel that, I am just too cluttered, because I'm doing things that are completely unrelated to each other. And, I'm mentoring on one side, and on one side I'm learning how to do Python, which is, not related to what I do at all, but it's something that interests me. Sometimes I feel that drains me out. Is there a way to kind of really figure out that, okay, these are the 3 things I should be doing at this point, and not really go berserk on, all the 10, 12 ideas I have in my head? Do you have a framework for that?
So because I'm a person who likes to do 3-4 things at a time, I would not tell you do that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who believe otherwise, right?
Yeah.
But I think what would really help is bringing these small lifestyle changes, like meditating and things like that.
Sure.
I think gives so much of clarity. I know a very good friend of mine. I remember when I was in venture capital, there was a deal that he and I were evaluating. And then I said, oh, I'm in. And then he said, okay, give me a night to make that decision. And of course, you have like 30 investor calls that you're taking and all of that. And then you need to pick one. And then he said, I'm going to come back the next day. And then first thing in the morning at 7 o'clock, he said, okay, I'm in. So I asked him, like, what did you do in 12 hours that really like changed? Because you didn't ask for any extra documents. And then he said, I just meditated on it this morning, and and he said, I had utmost clarity on how I should be helping this founder grow or the startup grow, and then he decided to invest. But my point is, we all need that silence. So you need to find what is that meditative state. It may not necessarily be sitting in one corner and thinking about things. For a lot of people, it comes through form of art, or it comes through running, right? But you need to find that 10 minutes or 20 minutes a day to sort of get you into that zone, right, where you have utmost clarity, and you need to figure out what that is. There are many ways to do it. It may not be sitting in one corner, but yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I really, really love how happy you seem to be. It's just kind of rubbing on me. I feel happy as well, looking you happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Nija. Khushbu, you're up next.
Thanks, Charu. So firstly, I don't know how to express, but Shalini, I love, like Nature has also mentioned, your enthusiasm, your energy, and how you have been candid, like how you're embracing all of your emotions and your struggles, whatever you have it. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And since most of my answers have been questions have actually been answered, so I just have this one question that when we because just like you, that if I've been a lot of things, it makes me sane, even if I'm not doing much or not being productive. But I think just for my own happiness, I keep on engaging in different set of projects, webinars, all sort of things. I do that. But the thing is, like, and this year I just try to slow it down, because I think in the process of achieving so many things, I find that I'm not going so much it's hampering my productivity. I could be, potentially do more if I focus on one thing. And this is what I found, that maybe I can start with the writing process, because this is how I think people perceive, like you said, mentioned about the validation. So I think the validation comes from from the space of writing. And to make that happen, and since I have my also 9 to 5 job, and on weekends I want to focus into this aspect, and there are other commitments as well. So how, like, I really want to know, what is your time management skill? Because like the healthy habits, like you mentioned that already, that the meditation one can do that. What could other healthy habits or the time productivity hacks one can use to get this writing process to be done? Secondly, if I talk about writing again, I'm also and I just read it yesterday, that if you are confused, maybe you can see that I'm in the messy middle. So, and I have a lot of things to share, that it's not just one topic that if people can perceive. I can talk about well-being, I can talk about circle economy, I can talk about a lot of things. I feel like that there's so much to share, but I don't have that one particular theme. So how to narrow it down, that that in the process of writing, so that it comes just it's because at the end of when you talk about writing, it's an act of storytelling. So what
Yeah.
could be the different ways, when you can tell the stories, which can actually reach out to the people that you want to reach, to reach, and it just makes a connection, that in that sense. So what really works out for you? Like, I just want to know.
So I can tell you how I went about writing this book. Okay, so just before this this event began, Bhavna and I were talking. She asked me, "How did you write the book?" And or rather, how long did it take to actually write the book? And so this is linked to the question that you asked, saying, what is the central theme of the book, right? So I was telling her that writing the book was the easier part. Knowing what to write was the tougher part. Right? What is it that you actually want to write, which is actually going to intrigue an audience, or something that they can learn from, right? I think that is important. So in your case, and for me, what happened was I actually started writing from either 2013 or 2014. I have this app called Evernote. I have it on my phone, I have it on my laptop. And what I started doing was, anything that I would find interesting, I would actually go dump any article even that I liked, I would actually go put it there, or anything I wanted to write about. I have like notes even from the show that I watched called Sex and the City, to something that happened there about how she's written something. But, I have like the most random notes, but then I kept writing everything, and it was actually a dump. When I actually started decided to write a book, which is in 2019, actually the first thing I did was actually went back to that dump that I had actually written, all those things, collective. And I promise you that at least 30% or 40% that I've written in the book actually has come from that dump. And it wasn't something new that I wrote, but I think what made sense was trying to understand the patterns of everything that you've actually written, or the issues that you wanted to highlight or talk about. It could be women empowerment to actually millennial mindset to fear to, it could be shopping or how people go and shop or how consumers behave to anything, right? And then there will be a pattern that will come, that will emerge. But I think the first thing to do is go write it, go start writing, create your dump. Where you put all the things together, and then there'll be a time where you have enough content where you'll actually figure out there's a pattern to what you're writing. They will not be very different, but at least to begin with, it can be an interest area, right? I mean, it could be a lifestyle product or anything that you like, anything that interests you as a person. And don't start writing for an audience. Start writing about things that you like, because I think at the end of the day, to be honest, I think if it's not authentic, people know these days, they know it has to come from the heart. It has to be you. It has to be your personal views or strong perspectives. It has to be you. People can tell. So start writing about things that interest you. Don't think about what will interest an audience, or how can you get more following, or if I write this, people, I don't think it works, because at some point people can read your authenticity. I remember many years ago, I was so fascinated, this woman talking about, it was called, I think, lipstick and politics or something like that. It was so fascinating, where she would talk about politics, but then, there's also like a woman element to it and trying to have a voice in it and so on. But it was very interesting. So, but the point is, you think that, oh, these are two like random topics, but then how is she actually bringing them together? I think that will come. But I think the first step is creating that dump that you want to create, where you put all your thoughts down, write about things that you like doing, and then at some point you will get the shape. It can also be like a 3-month thing. You don't have to do it for years. You just do it for like 2 months, 3 months, and then you figure out what you want to write about. Because writing itself, when I started writing, even for my professional work at 500 startups where I was working, I actually started writing. One is I was like, oh, I need to become famous because I need to get good deal flow. This was like in 2015. Okay. When I just started off, I said, how do I get entrepreneurs to take me seriously? And, a woman who's young, how do you get them to take seriously? And one of the things that I started doing was I started writing a lot about startups and the trends. And there were not too many people, investors back then, writing. But I had my own style of writing, the way I would actually present that information and so on, right? And at some point, you'll figure out what's your style of writing. And you have to research a lot before writing, because you have to be intelligent for an audience. You need to be adding value, and you need to have a strong perspective or a strong stand about what you're saying and where does that authority come from. So you need to make sure you've done enough research. And yeah, it works, and sometimes you don't know where all these small things that we do. Like I started writing thinking, okay, I need to have some voice in the startup ecosystem. That's why I started writing in 2015, 2016. But then by end of 2017, I became LinkedIn top voice because of my thought leadership and engagement that I got. And then of course now and that slowly sort of gave me the confidence to write the book as well. But I didn't start writing thinking, oh, I'm going to become top voice, oh, I'm going to become an author, because you don't know where these journeys take you. So the first step is start writing. There'll be a pattern. You'll develop your style of writing, and then make sure you make a strong point or a strong opinion and just put it out there. Write it from your heart, and you will find an audience that will connect with it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Shobha, can I invite you to actually ask your question? All right, I'm going to read it out. Shobha had a question. How acceptable is it at work to have all our avatars and dimensions shared? Very early on, I found bosses discouraging personal weekend passion pursuits.
So the question is how to do it despite having
discouragement from your bosses. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely a tough one. First, I would say, don't tell them you're doing to begin with. But I think it is it is very important for, to be with a manager or work with a manager who understands the overall development of that person and what that really brings to work every day, right? I think it's very important. That's a conversation I think a manager and an employee, I mean, as a team, that they need to talk about, and if there's a way to reason it out and have that discussion. But yeah, I mean, I would hate to have a manager like that. I wouldn't want to work for a manager like that. I think it's very, very difficult, because who doesn't understand, and especially for the younger generation now, I think there's so much that you can do, which is a form of self-expression or exploring new things. And I think it's never good to put a full stop to that, because I think your growth, your learning, everything's, it's full stop. So it doesn't help.
Great. Thanks, Mehak. We'll take one last question and then we'll do a little bit of a breakout activity. Mehak?
Sure. Thanks. I guess, first of all, I would like to say that it felt nice knowing that there are a lot of people who are clueless at 30, and it's not just me. But just probably asking, so I like how Nidra said that they like doing like 10 things at a time. And in fact, Shalini, you also quoted that if you can't find that one true calling, then do everything. But I guess, I don't know, lately I've been feeling like to do those 10 things, it requires like 10x efforts. Maybe I'm just lazy, or I'm not motivated enough to even do one of those things. So at this instant, I think it's difficult to aspire for those 10 things and find out what actually is. So any guidelines or any jugards for that?
Yeah, I think you're right, Mehak. I think you probably asked the question and answered it too, because I think there are so many people who are trying to do so many things. We all want extraordinary lives, right? I think each and every person lives, but and which means we want the life out of the ordinary. But I think what really the question really is how many of us are actually willing to take that extra step out of the ordinary for that extraordinary life, right? I think that's what it comes to, because if it was so easy to become successful, or it was so easy to lead that extraordinary life, then everybody would be doing that, right? I think it needs that extra step, or that extra you need to go that extra mile for that milestone. I think that's what's going to help us move forward. And the second thing is it is these fallacy of lies, right? I mean, we are lying so much to ourselves. Like I've been lying, like, I've been wanting to go to gym every day, and then I keep saying, oh, today it is this, or oh, my maid has not come. And it's just reasons, right? I mean, I'm sure I have 20 minutes in a day to do that, I know it, but then I just don't want to do it. I think I'm just lazy, and we all don't want to admit that, right? I mean, we all probably have our own reasons of why we didn't do something, and then you have to sometimes call out on your own bullshit, saying why you're not doing something that you're supposed to be doing. And yes, sometimes if 10 things is too hard, and you have to prioritize, saying what excites you more, and then you do the first 3 things and 4 things, and then whenever you have time to do the 4th thing or the 5th thing, you then pick it up. And then obviously you don't want to be too stretched, or because you have to justify your time and effort, right? So yeah, it's something that you need to prioritize, what works when. And you don't have to do all 10 at once. Then you pick whatever allows you to do for that moment in time.
Sure. Just one small instance, like I'm sure, like you said, that everyone wants to be successful and everyone is that aspiring. At times, I don't know, with so much influence, I would say, on social media, or maybe just hearing about your friends and everyone, that so many people doing so many different things. At times, it's just a give up phase that, then you start feeling that maybe you are not aspirational enough.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of us go through that. We spoke about how easy it is to start something now, that you just feel like, oh, everybody can do it, but actually it is so exhausting. For me, it was exhausting to taking pictures of myself and putting on Instagram. I found it extremely exhausting, thinking about what caption, and then, then you're saying, oh, how do I be relevant every day on social media? It's too much work. It is too much work. But you know what? If I can't take pictures of myself and put it on Instagram and I don't like it, then my friend asked me saying, then why the heck did you write a book? Because that's what it takes to market a book. You got to do what you got to do. You can't say I'll write a book, just sit, right? And it doesn't work. You have then, if your target audience is there, then that's what you got to do. And if you have to take pictures, you will, and you have to. And then, like things like that, right? Sometimes we all got to do what we got to do because that's what we want. So although there might be 30 people doing the same thing or 100 people doing the same thing, but there's no other way. If you don't do it, then how will you know? There's this famous quote which says, 10 years from now or 30 years from now, you're probably going to regret more about the things that you didn't do than the things that you actually did. So at least for that fear of missing out at the age of 60, it's best that we do everything that we want to do now, because when we had that time and opportunity, we sort of really embrace everything that the age and time has to offer, we're going to lose out a lot more. So, it's best to do what we can now, because we're probably going to regret more later.
Sure. Thanks, Rani.
All right. Thank you all for so many great questions and also honest questions, because that's like made our discussion so rich. Now we'll go into like a little bit of a breakout for 8 minutes, where we'd like you to discuss in your smaller groups of 2 and 3 of what is it that you've actually learned, what you heard from Shalini today, and what would you like to explore and take action on. All right. So just give me a sec. I'll just break you all into smaller groups.
While we are waiting, can I add a comment?
Yes, Yadu, go for it.
Shalini, just your last point you just mentioned, right? It's exhausting for you to take a picture and whatnot. I have, you would have heard about the Zig Ziglar quote, right? If you help people get what they want, people will help you get what you want. In fact, you have been so helpful, taking your time to educate all of us and helping us out. You don't have to take the burden of doing all the pictures. Just take a snapshot of this, and we will be glad to share it in our own things and then promote you. So just a simple hacks, just let you know. Okay.
How sweet. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Okay, I'll just go ahead. Yeah.
Suchi and Dr. Kavita, you're welcome to join your breakouts. I think Shalini has also joined, looks like.
All right, so good to have you all back. Hope you all enjoyed that breakout. So are there any interesting insights that came up during your discussions? Anybody would like to share what they discussed in their group?
I think I could go first. We definitely discussed how candid Shalini was and how fun it was to attend the session, and how good it was for us to understand how we can use these smaller tips and smaller moments of joy into what we do and incorporate that and be happy more often than we think we should be. And I think one of the things that Suchi mentioned, which was really, really nice, is that, she was one of the very few people who did MBA back, when it was a very male dominated profession and, male dominated studies that you would do. But she was like one of the first 9 women who did that. And from there on, she said something that resonated with me like a Simon Sinek sentence. She's like, from that time on, I looked at the path, not at the obstacles. So when I was focusing on the path and not the obstacles, I was constantly just going through and not wondering about where will I get stuck. And I think that was really beautiful, because if we start thinking about the path and not what's stopping us, it just brings a very different personality of yourself in front of you, where you're focusing on a more output driven and an outcome driven mindset than just saying, oh, I can't do it because of XYZ. So I love that. Thank you, Suchi, for sharing that. And I think that was really informative for me.
I want to go second, Charu.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and in my group, I had Dolly and I had Vaishali. I think I would just like to say that Shalini's book, we termed something like it is genuinely authentic because it comes from her heart. And I don't think that anyone in this group did not find it to be relevant and striking, because we all have some experience, or we are all exploring new horizons. So I really think that, and it has come at the right time. So thanks a lot to Shenomics is what our group really wanted to say, that it's good we kind of got together. It's a redefining moment for everyone of us, as everything has got digitized almost. So, and I think not only this book, but also Shenomics came at the right time. And thanks to Bhavna for setting this whole platform and getting all the women, the like-minded people connected. So amazing job, and please keep inspiring us and hand-holding us throughout. And Shalini, I think 3 of us really just ordered it from Amazon. So we just are going to have more deeper insights into what you want to say in your book. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tanvi.
Yeah. I just have one last question from Molama. Branding oneself is not an easy job for all, but with so many social platforms, it's those who talk and comment on everything or comment on everything are visible. How do you tackle this?
You mean how to get branding done? Is that the question?
Not
Molma?
exact. Yeah. Hi,
Go ahead.
Shalini. Hi, Shalini. So basically, what I meant is that everyone can't go ahead, or everyone is not as capable as the others who are like very good at socializing or with all those skills of branding oneself, going and commenting at each and everything just with the purpose of being there and highlighting, or maybe they are with the purpose of getting into some internship or whatever with specific goals. But with not so specific goals like that, still how do people, how do each one of us do a branding for oneself, not being so loud? And it depends on individual personality, like we are all different. So how do we actually, especially if you go to science and engineering background, people are more silent, or people are silently doing their work, which once they are excelling in their work, but we may not be as good as the other group of people who are in arts or in in media. So how do we actually make it?
Yeah, so to be honest, I think I'll answer this, but I'd also love for Bhavna to also share her thoughts around branding, because I think she's good at it. I think there are two parts to this. One is, to be honest, I don't think you need to come from a media or arts background to think about branding itself. That is, like, for example, I'm an engineer. I don't come from media or any background itself. So I think that is number one. I think the question is, how can you creatively do it, right? I mean, despite not having the idea to do so. I think if that is the case, then I think at least for what I have done is I constantly look at people that I really look up to in terms of their content and how they have created it. And I'll try to take some learnings from there and develop my own content around it. So that is something that I do. And that is number one. The second thing is, in terms of how do you build a brand identity for yourself in a public forum is one is, yes, there is out of sight, out of mind type of a situation that comes if you're not very frequent on it. So it's very important that you have some discipline in terms of how often you post or what you post about. So the most important thing that I think works very well is each person needs to be known for one thing that they want to talk about. You sort of develop thought leadership around that. Like, say, for example, for Bhavna, it could be around living a mindful life, or it could be specifically to do with empowering women, or helping them with, conscious living and so on, right? And she actually also lives that work. I mean, she can talk about it more. I remember you were doing something with clothes, now, Bhavna, where you were talking about mindful. So those are things, you have to live that life of work. And to be honest, you can also look at it as content for your for how you want to build a community for the work that you're trying to create. For her, it was all about mindfulness. So mindfulness, it need not be just at work. It could be also about consciously about how you're living, what you're eating, what you're wearing. So there are extensions that you can make around it. But what's important is you have to arrive at what is that central theme that you want to stand for. In her case, it might be thought leadership. It could be thought leadership around conscious living. In my case, it could be about when you're stuck, don't be hard on yourself, right? I mean, that could be my central theme. So whatever I do, I talk, will be around that. If I create a video, I could talk about it. Now, the narrative around it can be what you want it to be like. For example, it can be fun and quirky, like this book that I've written is a light, funny book. You'll actually laugh. There's nothing serious about that book. But there's another way, right? I mean, there's another way to write the book where you actually write it seriously. But it's a narration that is that really concurs with me. It's something that I can associate with, and that's why I've written it like this. So yes, so you find what is your cause, and then your microcosm, and then you develop around that. But where you will lose where you cannot brand yourself properly is if you're all over the place, where you're talking about everything. So in your case, if it's technology, or it could be how can women do better at workplace, or how to work in a team better, that can be your central theme. And anything that you do should be around that central example of, oh, she extended that clothing, she does a lot of these fitness videos, she has built her brand around that, so she's living that life, and she's not faking it, she's living that life because that's what she strongly believes in. And where that content will take you eventually, I don't think you should worry about that today. So that is something that I would say, that's how you build your personal identity, and not really be bogged down, oh, I have to comment, I have to do all that. If you really strongly believe about something, start talking about it and start living that life, and you have to share it. It could be through pictures, videos, or even written form. You start doing that. I think that would be my starting point. And I'm sure many of you probably here are also equally good. I don't know, maybe Bhavna can add. She does more than I do, so
Thank
she
you
can
so
add a thing
much.
or two
Thank
to
you,
this list.
Shalini. Thank you so much.
In the interest of time, I'm just going to say I completely agree with Shalini 100%, whatever she said. And because I know this is something that many of you are curious about and many of you are interested in, we're actually doing a webinar. I am doing a webinar on conscious visibility next Saturday. So information about that webinar will be in your inbox very, very soon. So just look out for that. And please come to that because we'll be going in depth on this topic. So, all right.
Thanks, Bhavna. Thanks.
Thank you, Malama. To bring this to a close, Charu, I'm going to hand it back to you.
All right. So thank you once again, Shalini, for everything you've done for us in this past 1.5 hours, and with writing your book and this entire journey, and for your time. So, and good luck to you always. And we'll look out for the other adventures that you take on. And thank you to all our participants who always make the mentoring circle so much fun and so interesting. And before you all go, just once again, guys, we really do want you all to carry on your conscious journey. Do at least explore the Conscious Woman program to understand if there's anything there that can help you with this. We've left the link in the chat. And also, as I always say, please do take the time to give us feedback also on the session, because it just helps us bring to you topics that are relevant for your development. And have a great weekend and week ahead. Yes, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Everybody, have a good day.